Hey, welcome to another video with Dragon. Today I'm going to basically show you how to use the Extrude node and how it works, while showing you how to make this cool abstract background designs, or basically a couple of them. First you will need a plane, and then you can rotate it 90 degrees. Then in the Geometry Nodes editor we can hit New and add the Extrude node. You'll notice that the plane is just a little thicker, like the standard extrude operation, except that in the back it is hollow. So then if we add a subdivide node and increase the levels, you will see that it creates cubes inside the main cube, which nothing happens to the front. This is exactly what we want, so I personally leave it at 3 levels. Then to notice something in the front, we will add a random value node, plug the random value node into the offset. Immediately you can see we have a nice textured wall, though maybe a bit too thick in some areas, so you can change the max value to a little less and the min to a little more, unless you want some areas to potentially have no thickness. With this setup, I then make it a little bit bigger by going into edit mode and extruding the original plane that we have. Then back into the Geometry Nodes editor, we can add subdivision, and you'll see it rounds it, and it rounds it a little too much for my liking, so we can increase the crease value to basically get a beveled look, since there is currently not a beveled node yet, which is a little unfortunate, but I bet there will be one soon. Okay, so now to shading. To shade this, I will only be doing this once. I'm not going to do it for the other examples after this, but the process is really the same for all of them. First, get a set material node. With the set material node in the geometry nodes, you can plug the top from the extrude node into the selection of the set material. Then you can get another set material and do the same thing, other than plug the side into the selection. Then you can plug mesh into geometry, and then the geometry of that set material node into the next set material node. And then you can plug that into the subdivision node. From there, you can go into your shader editor, assign the materials you want to those set materials of what color, and then play around with a little bit, and you can get something kind of like this. So yeah, that's really it, but you probably noticed that the cubes are all the same size, so we can fix this. I'm going to duplicate this setup, and then after duplicating it, I will make this a separate Geometry Nodes editor so that it's not affecting both of the duplicated things that we have. Then we can add a split edges and a separate geometry nodes. Make sure the separate geometry node is set to faces. Then we can add a math node and plug it into the selection and change it to greater than. Then plug a random value into one of these values, it doesn't really matter which. This would then allow us to choose what cubes are larger, but then to also get the smaller cubes, because as you can see right now, it's only allowing us to only see the larger cubes. We can add a subdivide node, another one, and then we can plug the inverted into it. And then we'll add a join geometry, plugging the standard selection value and the subdivide into it. And then boom, we now have larger and smaller cubes. And if you wanted even more variation, you could do this again. Well, on to the next thing, which is that you can actually make this slanted very easily. And if you add subdivision to it, you can also get what I think looks like scales. And all you need to do to get this result is plug a random value into the offset value of the extrude node. Then play around with the value some more, and you can get a nice result. The next part of the extrude node that I want to talk about is that if you plug a random value into the selection, we can control what areas get extruded and what areas don't get extruded. This can be very useful in certain patterns if you only want certain areas working. And also, if you don't want all of these unconnected, so there's lines in between each one, you can simply uncheck individual, and it basically creates a solid area of extrusion, which I really only think is useful when we're using the selection to control what areas are extruded and not. And finally, here's a cool tip if you want a honeycomb pattern in a simple way by adding a triangulate, which creates a triangle pattern, but then we can add dual mesh to create a cool honeycomb pattern. With it, you can check keep boundaries if you want to do exactly that and have boundaries. Basically, in my case, keeping it a rectangle instead of having the honeycomb kind of go in and out and making it a weird rectangle. So yeah, I quite like this new node, and I'm excited to see what everyone else creates with it. Hopefully you found this useful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!